gotta be here.
My God, here.
You look amazing.
I really like that movie.
Yeah. That's a sweet one. That used to be like, you know, back when I was getting in trouble throughout the entirety of the 90s, people were like, why can't you just be sweet like that guy you played in Chances Are? I was like, I don't know. Be him, don't be Julian.
I'm a sucker for any stories like that. Heart and Souls is another one that I like. And but as you look at do you remember where you were in your life when you made these movies, or do you just connect?
No, for Less Than Zero, first of all, that was the first time I ever was on a tennis court. Second of all the stuff that Julian's getting into, like I was like an East Coast kid and I partied, but I'd never gone down this like terrible, like super addicted road that he was on. So it was a bit of a Ghost of Christmas Future. And also, it was this, this totally privileged society. Like everything in the film was the first time I ever wore like a jacket that cost more than $100. It was the first time. And yet the whole movie was about the excess of Los Angeles and how the hero of the story, Clay, Andrew McCarthy, is trying to get out of Los Angeles, and Jamie Gertz, who was like the most clean, nice Midwestern girl you'd ever met, who's playing this, and I was like, wow, like we're really showing the dark side of, Hollywood, It's a shame what happens to people like this in these books. And then I remember even on like the first day of rehearsals for Chances Are, I'd met some friends. We were in Washington, D.C. I'd met some friends. We wound up back at the hotel. We ordered some champagne. One thing led to another. And then the read-through was at 11 a.m. and it was, about 2:45 p.m. and I was just sleeping it off. And the door came off the hinges and it was Ryan O'Neal. And he was like, if I'm here telling you you're fucking up, you're fucking up. And I was like, wow, like people seem pretty uptight. Not that I knew I was late, but it was a bit of a warning sign there. But I remember loving shooting the movie. It seemed really sweet, and part of me after doing something like Less Than Zero, you're like, why am I doing this dumbass romantic comedy? You're like, because that's what people want to see you do. We don't want to see you like, dying in Palm Springs and bumming everybody out. I was like, oh, okay. Don't worry, I'll wake up on time for the next read-through. Don't worry about it. I'll just start earlier.
These films, and you've made so many films, are you a workaholic? I mean, do you really?
I'm a somethingaholic.
Yeah.
Work to me, and I think you know this, I mean, I've seen you so many times over the years, and I've seen approval in your eyes, I've seen concern in your eyes, I've seen encouragement in your eyes, I've seen disappointment in your eyes. I like your eyes tonight best. Thank you very much. I think that the weird thing about this Cosa Nostra, this thing we share, is we genuinely do have an affection for each other, if we're not assholes, and we do kind of keep an eye on one another. I'm sorry, last time, what was the question? I'll come back.
No, I'm leading into the next clip, which is from another film I like that fortunately the other guys like too, True Believer, with James Woods. And you'll see in this clip, there's something electric in the air when the two of you are working opposite each other. And not every film that you made was a spectacular film or an event film with a capital E. It's just a movie. Yeah. It opens Friday. There are several opening this Friday. You can choose from this one to this one to this one. And today, because movie making has become so expensive and people are risk averse, as they say, we don't get a lot of bread and butter movies coming down the pipeline. There's more at stake with every decision to make a movie or not make a movie. But when you started out and you started, building a career, there were good choices like this to be made.
Yeah, truly, truly, truly. And I love this story because it was based on this lawyer, real-life trial lawyer named Tony Serra, who had defended some unsavory types, and then he would take on these kind of almost pro bono cases, and some of them were quite serious. And that's really what True Believer was about, was this lawyer someone who was just phoning it in and had given up on justice, and then he's given a chance. It's very much like like The Verdict. It was kind of like a cooler late 80s version of The Verdict. And I learned so much from him. He was like speaking of modern masters, he was like a great, great teacher to me. James Woods was.
Well, let's look at the two of you in a scene from True Believer, followed by a scene from Chaplin. About
Oh, I remember
about
that
whom
one.
and about
Yeah.
which. All
Okay,
right.
good.
You're smiling, I'm glad. Chaplin, it's like scaling Everest, saying, play Charlie Chaplin. Go ahead, be Charlie Chaplin. Be both the public Charlie Chaplin and the private Charlie Chaplin. How did you even begin to approach that?
It's so weird because 33 years ago, around this time of year, I came up to Santa Barbara and I was prepping for Chaplin, and I stayed at the Montecito Hotel that I know he and Fatty Arbuckle had an interest in. And I was just trying to find, like, you know, traces of him. And of course, you can go to A&M, which it was back then, and that was the Chaplin Studios, and he was kind of everywhere. And it just seemed like this, like make or break opportunity. And it was a biopic and all that stuff, and you know, 5 people did a biopic every year. They were trying to go for some award season nonsense or whatever, and I was like, no, I'm going to become Charlie Chaplin. And Attenborough was like, well, Robert, first, let's just, why don't we just rehearse a bit? I was like, we gotta throw this fucking script out. I got a better idea. And he was like, no, Robert. I was like, no, this isn't what really happened. He goes, Robert, I'm the director. And I go, okay. But if you let me help you, I can help you craft an amazing role. And he would start crying, and I was like, this guy's really wearing his heart on his sleeve. And like James Woods, in a much more hardcore modern American actor way, changed my life and really became part of what I wanted to emulate. You know, Dickie Attenborough, who you saw and interacted with many times over the years, became like this first true master filmmaker who was also an actor, and he went through every second of this process with me. And you know, if I was having a great day, he was having a great day. If Charlie's heart was breaking, he'd be like, oh, I just can't believe they did this to him. Robert, why would they make him leave America? It's just I'd be like, turn the camera around, roll on him. He's in the zone. But he was so generous and loving, and I really needed that at that point because, you know, Hollywood's it can be a bit of a hard knocks space.
What do you want from a director? Ideally, what do you want from your director? I mean, you've worked with everybody from Oliver Stone to Robert Altman and back in...
What do you want? I mean, you just want to feel like you're making them happy. It's one of these weird, dumb things. Like, you just want mom or dad to like think you're a good boy in some way. You want to show that like, hey, you know, you gave me this job, and aren't you kind of happy? Like, is it going all right? And then sometimes you develop you don't get that with Oliver Stone. You know, he was like, if you get this scene right, you're gonna fucking ruin my movie. You'd be like, all right, but he's just such a mad genius, and you just, like, we were doing Natural Born Killers, and I remember I said to him, like, I had this idea that, you know, that Wayne Gale is like, you know, they're breaking out of the prison, and he's gonna call up his wife and divorce her, and he's gonna call his girlfriend, and they're gonna get down. And he was like, wait, what are you saying? What the fuck are you talking about? That's not in the script. And I pitched him this whole idea, but I was essentially talking about his life. I was basically telling him all this drama that's going on with you. Let me pretend it's Wednesday. He goes, wait a minute, no, all right, write it down. And he dug it. So it became this like weird, so I'm gonna answer the question without having to ask you what the question was. What I want to do is I want to commune with that director to the point that he and I become the third thing, which is the character I'm playing. She and I, they and I.
Well, you've done just that time and time again, and but sometimes you get other benefits from taking a movie role. Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang. Well,
Yes.
yeah. Well, first off, you worked with a first-time director.
Shane Black.
Yeah, one of the most successful screenwriters of that period.
Oh yeah.
And certainly the highest paid screenwriter of that period. But this was his first film as a director.
It was, and you know, Joel Silver had given me really my first studio job in Weird Science, before even that, right, all that stuff. And then it turns out there was this nice Jewish girl from Chicago named Susan Levine who was running his company, and we had met on another Joel Silver production, and we had fallen in love, and then she was the lead producer on this kind of like throwaway, like weirdo buddy comedy that I think they didn't expect to really do any business. It was just, Joel was just kind of like getting it out and done. And then we hired Val Kilmer, and it was just, we shot it all at night. And Susan and I are in love, and I love Val Kilmer, and Shane Black is so funny. And I've never played a character that was so low IQ'd and just such a dummy. And yet, I don't know why I related to him so much. Because there have been certain aspects of my life I've been very ignorant. And anyway, it was just wound up being this like celebration of dumb fuckers who wind up somehow winning. So I think that was actually a very Shane Black story, you know? And it's always, we're watching the new True Detective. Love it, love Jodie and all that stuff. But we always go back. Anytime a story or a series or a movie has two cases that dovetail, there's a line in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang where Harry Lockhart, this dipshit, says, your case and my case are the same fucking case. And so anytime we watch something, even True Detective, we're watching Jodie Jr. thing, I go, her case and her case are the same fucking case.
Thank you for letting us in on that private joke. That's great. We're going to play a scene from that, and then we're going to play a scene that was really pivotal. I think it was pivotal in your rebuilding your career, Zodiac, for David Fincher. So let's watch these two scenes, and then we'll talk about Zodiac.
Great.
Such a good movie. Such a good movie.
Right.
But it came at a crucial time for you.
Yeah.
Because you hadn't been insurable for a while.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I've never, I mean, other people were thinking about it. My entertainment lawyer was certainly thinking about it. But I was never really thinking like, I need to do this role and then this will kind of get my credibility or whatever, you know? I was just thinking, that seems like a good part. And everyone else was stressing. But I knew, particularly with Zodiac, that it's like I was with a quality filmmaker, very exacting, very similar to Nolan, and that I knew the story was important to him. And I look at that thing, sometimes I watch these scenes and go, wow, you're actually pretty focused in that scene. You're doing a pretty good job. And then I also, in looking at it, because we're watching between the thing, I go like, that's what I would have become if I hadn't stopped drinking and using.
Yeah.
This kind of miserable old guy, you know. Better to play it than to be it.
And to be it, exactly. And it paid you back many times over, I think. You got not only great reviews, great notices, but I think people started to put trust in you again, belief in you again. It was never a question of your talent. That never came into question.
Yeah.
But your reliability did.
Sure. I remember reading a few reviews that were like, oh, you know what? We forgot. He's actually a really good actor. And I was like, all right. But it was this film I did with Tim Allen for Disney called Shaggy Dog, where I was like, just whatever. It was like a Disney film. But once Disney said they would, if that hadn't happened, there's no way I ever would have made it past Marvel in the screen test and been able to play Iron Man, you know? So I'll often say that Shaggy Dog is my most important role because I like kind of taking the piss out of all this stuff. But you're really right, and I trust your take on this, that Zodiac was like I probably wouldn't be here if I hadn't. You got to remind people every like decade or so that you don't suck.
It's notorious that people have amnesia in the show businesses in general, and but you persevered. And whether it was a strategic decision or not, you did it. You did a good job. I remember the exact day that I read or heard on the radio or something. We listen to radio every now and then. That you had been cast in the leading role of Iron Man. And I never read those Marvel comics, so I didn't know anything about Iron Man in particular, but I just said to myself, Robert Downey Jr. is a superhero? Is a comic book superhero? And then I said to myself, yeah, that could be really cool. And of course, you were and you are. And talk about turnaround. Talk about turnaround, man.
I will never be as cool as Tony Stark, but it was so great to be associated with someone like that for a while, you know? And then it wore off.
What I find interesting is more than once, the Shaggy Dog, another example. I mean, chances are you play a guy who is reincarnated in another guy's body. Shaggy Dog, your identity masks another identity.
Yes, I think I'm a dog at the end. I get turned into a dog. I just remember being on a wire and barking a lot, jumping around, yeah. Strong work.
And then there's the ultimate identity, meta, Tropic Thunder. Well, you were with Susan by that time, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I had her full endorsement.
Okay.
We were married and everything.
Okay. So she said, yeah, do this.
There was just this weird period of time where I'd finished Iron Man and it hadn't come out. And then I went and shot Tropic Thunder. And the second I was done with that, Susan and I went to London and we did Sherlock. And I was like, just give me something. Like, everything's working. And my mom was like, Bobby, don't do Tropic Thunder. It's such a bad idea. And I was like, no, but if you read the script, and she goes, and I know Ben's Jewish, and I really get it. I just don't. She goes, one of you is going to get in huge trouble. Either he's going to get in trouble for Simple Jack, or you're going to get in trouble for Lincoln Osiris. And Ben got in trouble for Simple Jack.
Okay, here they come, all in a row.
Oh my gosh.
Iron Man, Tropic Thunder, Sherlock Holmes.
Come on.
Yeah. How was Sherlock Holmes pitched to you, or did you initiate it?
It was pitched that Guy Ritchie thought we should probably get someone younger. And then Joel Silver said, no, idiot. He's doing it. Susan's going to produce it. You're doing it. He goes, all right, I'll meet him. And we got along great, and it wound up just being this amazing kind of steampunk reinvention of that, you know, one of the great characters of all time.
And, is it true you're doing a third?
I mean, I think everyone always says they're doing a next one of everything they're doing. We'd have to get it right, you know? I'm in pretty good fighting shape. I don't know if you want to see Sherlock with his shirt off at, like, 59 years old, but I would do it for you. I have learned the never say never stuff, you know? And it's a great character. But again, it was just this really crazy period of time when it just seemed like This is the problem too, is you can start thinking that everything's working because you're in it. It's not true. The real thing is that you're just winding up with groups of people in succession where you just happen to kind of get 3 great jobs in a row. Yeah, I was a little tiny bit inflated by the time all 3 of those movies were out. Because I went back, I was like, look, I've just done 3 movies in a row correctly, so fucking listen to me. And people were like, what is wrong with this guy?
And how does your very smart wife deal with that?
She's just like, just don't say this shit outside of the kitchen. Even today, like I said, I woke up late, I was coming up here, and it was really right before the earthquake. And I was like, bye, honey. Bye, honey. And she was sitting talking to like all these other power chicks around a table. I was like, but she doesn't want to say goodbye to me, I'll just leave. And then like somebody at the table said, I think your husband is like really wants you to like get up and turn around. And she goes, oh, do you need a little kissy bye-bye? Oh, I'm gonna miss you so much. I can't operate without you for 4 hours, let alone overnight. What am I gonna do? She's like, is that what you wanted? I was like, all right, I'll see you later, bye.
Have your kids seen any or many of your movies?
I mean, they'll see them in passing. I don't know how particularly Susan has done this, but they have really only a passing interest in my majesty. They're into what they're into. Like, you know, my daughter like shaved her head once she watched Stranger Things, so like she loves 11, and all Exton really cares about is like sports and like telling me that I look like stupid with my bedhead in the morning. So something's going right. I mean, eventually they'll sit down and realize exactly who their father is. Unlikely. It couldn't happen to a nicer guy, too. Like, I really don't do well with, you know, it's why Susan keeps my, if I become inflated at all, she just leaves me alone like a stray cat until I'm reasonable.
It's what wives can do.
Huh?
It's what wives can do.
Yes. I mean, as we know, Alice I hear, has provided a very similar function to you, Leonard.
Among many others.
Correct.
Many others. We're going to introduce another special guest tonight. And
yeah. You know, the last couple years have been this place where, and I invite anybody who's not a kid anymore to, if you just stay open-minded a little bit and realize that, you know, you have an incomplete education and that there are many lessons that can be learned, particularly when you see the dynamics between people who function, I just want to say it, at a higher level than you do, like for real, then you have these great new experiences. And I just had one of those, in particular with this fella. It's been very seldom in my career that I've realized that I was born to play a supporting role in favor of somebody else rightfully having the spotlight. And I was afforded a deeply humiliating clinic on what masterful acting in exceptional cinematic experiences. And I'd always known him and always respected him and loved his work. And, you know, all of my peers know he's great, but he had yet to have a vehicle where he could fully demonstrate the breadth of his capacity. And I've never seen anything like it. And it is an honor to be way under him on the call sheet for Oppenheimer.
Mr. Downey is referring to our next guest, Cillian Murphy.
Come on now.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Come on, it's this guy.
Now, this is just like that Q&A last night. I walked in, they applauded, you walked in, they stood up. Just get used to it.
Okay. I'm just going to read this on paper, okay? Old school. So I am very, very pleased to be here tonight in my latest role as Robert Downey Jr.'s straight man slash loyal wingman. And it's become an actual real-life role of a lifetime for me over the last few months, honestly. And I love it. No, honestly, I'm thrilled to be here because I want to take this opportunity to say publicly that I've never worked with or met anyone like Robert Downey Jr. Truly. And aside from his staggering talent and his otherworldly range, he has managed to awe us with both his character and his leading man performances, his searing dramatic performances, and his gut-busting comedic performances. He's taken on and triumphed in every imaginable kind of role, whether it be an endearing romantic, a dogged reporter, a punch-drunk to a private eye, and even the quintessential action hero. And I mean, it's just mind-bending what this man has done. In my opinion, he is the most versatile actor of his generation. Most likely of many generations. I hadn't met Robert until we were brought together by Chris Nolan on Oppenheimer, but you know, anyone that loves film and that loves great acting, I've been a fan forever. And I was always trying to figure out from a distance, you know, how he actually does what he does. And working alongside him on Oppenheimer and watching him turn every day into Louis Strauss, I'm still not sure how he does it. And I think it is something, I think it might be a marriage of pure talent and this kind of preternatural insight into human nature. And what I've also learned is that Robert works incredibly hard to make it look so easy, because all the great ones do. But he's not just a great actor. He's a kind of a unicorn because he's a great actor who has also risen to the level of stardom that few of us can kind of comprehend. And why do I think that is? I think that is because he is one of the kindest, funniest, most generous actors I have ever worked with. And all of that comes out on the screen, and you see it in every single performance. And all of his performances, no matter how unlike himself they are, they're always authentic, like Robert. And every minute that I spent with him on camera was pure bliss, even though his character wanted me to disappear into a black hole and never come back. But off camera, we bonded in a way that truly I've rarely done, and I'm so very proud to be here tonight as a Downey straight man slash wingman. And I am even prouder to call him a friend. So now here's a clip from his truly moving documentary, Senior, and also a scene from Oppenheimer.
Thanks, buddy.
Last time I watched that scene in that film, you were all 3 stories high. I saw it on IMAX. Give us your observations about working with Mr. Nolan.
I mean, I wouldn't be here tonight if I hadn't participated with Cillian as the head of the acting department under the tutelage of Chris Nolan. There'd be no reason to have me here as a modern master, because what have I done for you lately? And so, I mean, I think that if you're lucky enough to have someone see something in you that you're not even sure they're right in thinking you could do, it's this faith thing, you know? It's like he was so certain. I mean, Cillian was a much easier decision to make. He's worked with him 5 times. You know that he could carry this epic and really important story. But I was saying this last night, and when you're a visionary filmmaker, it means you can see things that other people can't see. And in this case, I think it was his faith in me. And then it was this just monastic and really focused education, and like here's how you make a proper fucking movie. You know, and I was like, wow. So I wouldn't say I was mortified, but you know, Cillian's only seen me on this last film, whereas like if I'm not prepared within an inch of my life, I will probably evaporate. Whereas, you know, I'm not saying I had gotten it all lazy, but you know, it was more like rolling off a log for the last 10 years or so, and you don't roll off logs around Chris Nolan. So it was just very exacting and very rewarding, and I think it's probably the best movie I've ever been a part of.
Did he present you with a lot of research and background about the man you're playing, or did you have to go digging?
He did, but by the time I was done reading the script, I remembered that I've read in several other books that were cross-referencing him, and he was always kind of a, you know, a behind-the-scenes guy, but he'd been a lifelong public servant, so I just really leaned into, and he had said too, he said basically, Cillian's Amadeus, he's Mozart, you're Salieri, get into it. And I was like, well, I usually play Mozart. He's like, yeah, well, Cillian's the guy for this, trust me. Whole fucking movie's about him, and you're playing the bad guy. And I was like, yep, sounds about right. And it turns out that there was plenty of historic animosity to draw on. And I also just thought about every time that somebody had embarrassed me in public, or I felt less than, or looked over, or walked past, or not acknowledged, or on the outside, or people didn't know that my voice or opinion mattered, or whatever. And it was kind of like Less Than Zero. I remember in Less Than Zero, I thought, will any son ever really connect with his father? That's what I was thinking about on the tennis court. And this time I thought, like, can humanity survive all these petty grievances that these egotistical, usually men have with each other? And I was able to just go, well, let's play this shadow side of it. And that's how Straws was kind of formed. And it wound up being a great learning experience.
Spencer Tracy said, as we've all read, movie buffs all know, hit your marks, say your lines, tell the truth. Do you have anything to contradict or add to that?
First of all, never disagree with Spencer Tracy. Yeah, and like if you're doing much more than that, you're thinking, Susan will sometimes say to me, oh, hi, are we putting a hat on a hat again? And I'd be like, hey, 2 hats is cool. You can wear one way, one other. This was really all, sometimes the weirdest lesson is like, do less, feel more, like get out of your head and just do the, you know, just like do what's in front of you. And also like, listen, you know? It's not like I went out there and say, well, this Chris Nolan guy is not very bright. I'm gonna have to really take the reins here, you know?
Listen is crucial, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's something that you've said before too, which is at our best, this weird cultural thing of making, you know, films and TV is like we're communicating something. And hopefully we're communicating something that transcends the period of the film or the characters. We're talking to these deep, you know, subconscious aspects of ourselves. And I'm still studying the implications of what I think Nolan, being a visionary filmmaker, I think his vision was like we're in that 80-year period again, these 4 generations where we tend to almost destroy ourselves. And I think that intuitively his timing for making this film is what you see. You know, the great artists also give us something that's a contemplation of something that is urgent in our culture. So that's what he does.
That's a great summing up, which means it's my turn to reintroduce Rob Lowe and the aforementioned Cillian Murphy.
Oh my God, together?
Your award.
Aren't they a handsome couple?
All right, you give it to him.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear on the blocking.
Test out that speech, baby.
All right. I'm going to keep this pretty short. First of all, as we all know, the missing integer in any event is the audience. I really want to thank you for showing up. Thank you for giving me all this energy. It felt great. Speaking of modern masters, I mean, I really was reminding myself of your significance in our culture and what you've done, from being a scholar to a writer to a critic to a host, and just, again, your approval means the world to me, and I appreciate that you feel like I'm in a good spot. And I feel like Sally Field, he likes me. I like that a lot. And I love his whole family. I was hanging out with him backstage. They're a cool bunch. You know, Rob is someone who has demonstrated so much to me, and we've been able to reconnect lately. And I went on his podcast, and we're kind of talking about our origins, but he was the first one of my generation to say, guys, you know, there's this thing called stop and grow up and handle your business and be a good dad and be a good husband and enjoy the privilege of being able to work in this industry, which is why he's still relevant and why he still looks 27. And then, and Cillian is straight man to no one. He is just, I think, beginning to understand by the reaction he gets when he comes to places that he is a fucking force of nature, and we're going to be seeing a lot more of him in the future. That said, I just want to let you in on a little something. My agents, Andrew Dunlap and Phil Raskin, came up with me, and we got we've been looking forward to this for months. We got matching PJs, we're going to hang out and stay up late. So this whole Santa Barbara International Film Festival, for us, this has turned into this is like party time. We had a great time. And so I want to thank that. And as always, I will never finish any thank you, even though she's probably just getting ready to put the kids to bed soon, without thanking my dearest associate, Susan Downey. Thanks for sticking it out. Love ya. Have a nice eve.